Ill wast thou shrouded then, O patient Son of God, yet only stoodst unshaken. Nor yet stayed the terror there. Infernal ghosts and hellish furies round environed thee. Some howled, some yelled, some shrieked, some bent at thee their fiery darts, while thou sattest unappalled in calm and sinless peace. Thus passed the night so foul, till morning fair came forth with pilgrim steps, in amice grey, who with her radiant finger stilled the roar of thunder, chased the clouds, and laid the winds, and grisly spectres, which the fiend had raised to tempt the Son of God with terrors dire. And now the sun with more effectual beams had cheered the face of the earth, and dried the wet from drooping plant, or dropping tree. The birds, who all things now behold more fresh and green, after a night of storm so ruinous, cleared up their choicest notes, in bush and in spray, to gratulate the sweet return of morn. Nor yet amidst this joy and brightest morn was absent, after all his mischief done, the Prince of Darkness. Glad would also seem of this fair change, and to our Saviour came. Yet with no new device, they all were spent. Rather by this his last affront resolved, desperate of better course, to vent his rage, and mad despite to be so oft repelled. Him walking on a sunny hill he found, backed on the north and west by a thick wood, and out of the wood he starts in wonted shape, and in a careless mood thus to him said: "Fair morning yet betides thee, Son of God, after a dismal night. I heard the wrack, as earth and sky would mingle, but myself was distant. And these flaws, though mortals fear them, as dangerous to the pillared frame of heaven, or to the earth's dark basis underneath, are to the main as inconsiderable and harmless, if not wholesome, as a sneeze to man's less universe, and soon are gone. Yet, as being oft times noxious where they light on man, beast, plant, wasteful and turbulent, like turbulencies in the affairs of men, over whose heads they roar and seem to point, they oft foresignify and threaten ill. This tempest at this desert most was bent, of men at thee, for only thou here dwellest. Did I not tell thee, if thou didst reject the perfect season offered with my aid to win thy destined seat, but wilt prolong all to the push of fate, pursue thy way of gaining David's throne no man knows when, for both the when and the how is nowhere told, thou shalt be what thou art ordained, no doubt, for angels have proclaimed it, but concealing the time and means? Each act is rightliest done, not when it must, but when it may be best. If thou observe not this, be sure to find what I foretold thee, many a hard assay of dangers and adversities and pains, ere thou of Israel's sceptre get fast hold, whereof this ominous night that closed thee round, so many terrors, voices, prodigies, may warn thee, as a sure foregoing sign." So talked he, while the Son of God went on, and stayed not, but in brief him answered thus: "Me worse than wet thou findest not. Other harm those terrors which thou speakest of did me none. I never feared they could, though noising loud and threatening nigh. What they can do as signs betokening or ill boding I contemn as false portents, not sent from God but thee, who, knowing I shall reign past thy preventing, obtrudest thy offered aid, that I, accepting, at least might seem to hold all power of thee, ambitious spirit, and wouldst be thought my God, and stormest, refused, thinking to terrify me to thy will. Desist. Thou art discerned, and toilest in vain, nor me in vain molest." To whom the fiend, now swollen with rage, replied: "Then hear, O Son of David, virgin born, for Son of God to me is yet in doubt. Of the Messiah I have heard foretold by all the prophets, of thy birth at length announced by Gabriel, with the first I knew, and of the angelic song in Bethlehem field, on thy birth night, that sung thee Saviour born. From that time seldom have I ceased to eye thy infancy, thy childhood, and thy youth, thy manhood last, though yet in private bred, till at the ford of Jordan, whither all flocked to see the Baptist, I among the rest, though not to be baptized, by voice from heaven heard thee pronounce the Son of God beloved. Thenceforth I thought thee worth my nearer view and narrower scrutiny, that I might learn in what degree or meaning thou art called the Son of God, which bears no single sense. The Son of God I also am, or was, and if I was, I am. Relation stands. All men are sons of God, yet thee I thought in some respect far higher so declared. Therefore I watched thy footsteps from that hour, and follow thee still on to this waste wild, where, by all best conjectures, I collect thou art to be my fatal enemy. Good reason, then, if I beforehand seek to understand my adversary, who and what he is, his wisdom, power, intent, by parley or composition, truce or league, to win him, or win from him what I can. And opportunity I here have had to try thee, sift thee, and confess have found thee proof against all temptation, as a rock of adamant and as a centre, firm to the utmost of mere man both wise and good, not more. For honours, riches, kingdoms, glory, have been before contemned, and may again. Therefore, to know what more thou art than man, worth naming the Son of God by voice from heaven, another method I must now begin. So saying, he caught him up, and without wing of hippogriff, bore through the air sublime, over the wilderness and o'er the plain, till underneath them fair Jerusalem, the holy city, lifted high her towers, and higher yet the glorious temple reared her pile, far off appearing like a mount of alabaster, topped with golden spires. There, on the highest pinnacle, he set the Son of God, and added thus in scorn, "There stand, if thou wilt stand. To stand upright will ask thee skill. I to thy father's house have brought thee, and highest placed, highest is best. Now shew thy progeny, if not to stand, cast thyself down. Safely, if Son of God, for it is written, He will give command concerning thee to his angels, in their hands they shall uplift thee, lest at any time thou chance to dash thy foot against a stone." To whom thus Jesus, "Also it is written, Tempt not the Lord thy God. He said and stood, but Satan, smitten with amazement, fell. As when earth's son Antaeus, to compare small things with greatest, in Irasa strove with Jove's Alcides, and, oft foiled, still rose, receiving from his mother earth new strength, fresh from his fall, and fiercer grapple joined, throttled at length in the air expired and fell. So, after many a foil, the tempter proud, renewing fresh assaults, amidst his pride fell whence he stood to see his victor fall. And, as that Theban monster that proposed her riddle, and him who solved it not devoured, that once found out and solved, for grief and spite cast herself headlong from the Ismenian steep, so, strook with dread and anguish, fell the fiend, and to his crew, that sat consulting, brought joyless triumphals of his hoped success, ruin and desperation and dismay, who durst so proudly tempt the Son of God. So Satan fell, and straight a fiery globe of angels on full sail of wing flew nigh, who on their plumy vans received him soft from his uneasy station, and upbore, as on a floating couch, through the blithe air. Then, in a flowery valley, sat him down on a green bank, and set before him spread a table of celestial food, divine ambrosial fruits fetched from the tree of life, and from the fount of life ambrosial drink, that soon refreshed him wearied, and repaired what hunger, if aught hunger had impaired, or thirst. And, as he fed, angelic choirs sung heavenly anthems of his victory, over temptation and the tempter proud. True image of the Father, whether throned in the bosom of bliss, and light of light conceiving, or, remote from heaven, enshrined in fleshly tabernacle and human form, wandering the wilderness, whatever place, habit, or state, or motion, still expressing the Son of God, with godlike force endued against the attempter of thy Father's throne and thief of paradise. Him long of old thou didst debel, and down from heaven cast with all his army. Now thou hast avenged supplanted Adam, and, by vanquishing temptation, hast regained lost paradise, and frustrated the conquest fraudulent. He never more henceforth will dare set foot in paradise to tempt, his snares are broke. For, though that seat of earthly bliss be failed, a fairer paradise is founded now for Adam and his chosen sons, whom thou, a Saviour, art come down to reinstall, where they shall dwell secure, when time shall be, of tempter and temptation without fear. But thou, infernal serpent, shalt not long rule in the clouds. Like an autumnal star, or lightning, thou shalt fall from heaven, trod down under his feet. For proof, ere this thou feelest thy wound, yet not thy last and deadliest wound, by this repulse received, and holdest in hell no triumph. In all her gates Abaddon rues thy bold attempt. Hereafter learn with awe to dread the Son of God. He, all unarmed, shall chase thee, with the terror of his voice,